Founded by Reese Witherspoon, Draper James is more than a clothing brand. It's a celebration of timeless charm and elegance, particularly inspired by Reese's Southern roots. Known for its classic yet modern aesthetic, Draper James has quickly become a cultural icon, gracing the pages of major publications like Vogue, Southern Living, and Harper's Bazaar. With flagship stores in Nashville and beyond, the brand has redefined heritage-inspired fashion, blending tradition with contemporary style. Today, we're sitting down with Kathryn Sukey, head of design at Draper James, to talk about the brand's roots, its influence on modern style, and what her role is in creating these collections that we've grown to love so much. We also dive into the excitement surrounding the brand's 10-year anniversary and what that looks like. Plus, Kathryn gives us an inside look at the design process, revealing how Draper James masterfully blends timeless design with contemporary relevance. This was such a fun conversation. We actually laughed. We didn't even realize a full hour had gone by when we were done talking. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. It is both exciting and insightful. Welcome to Grandma's Silver, where tradition meets today. I'm Allie, your host and the founder of the Grand Millennial Lifestyle. Here, we blend aesthetics with nostalgia, engaging in conversations with lifestyle brands, designers, and more to rediscover the timeless charm of the past. Join me as we journey from home to heart, illuminating the past and polishing the present with the gleam of Grandma's Silver. Kathryn, I'm so excited to sit down and chat with you. I am a huge Draper James fan, and so I'm really eager not just to talk about the brand, but particularly your role, because that's really unique. So I'd like to just pass this over to you for a moment and allow you to introduce yourself and what it is that you do with Draper James.
Well, I'm Kathryn Sukey, and I'm so thrilled to be talking with you, Allie. It was like we were sort of going back and forth a little bit trying to plan out when we could do this. And so to finally be chatting together is a real delight. I joined Draper James 6 years ago, and really it was at a pivotal time for the brand when they were really trying to sort of reposition the brand as a more affordable commercial lifestyle brand. Reese really sort of started to understand. She was one of the first people to really engage with her fans on Instagram and really, manage her account herself and really have a dialogue with people. And she kept on hearing over and over again that people loved her. She's so approachable. She's so authentic, but they couldn't afford her line that she had launched 10 years ago. And so that resonated loud and clear with Reese. And of course, she took that to heart. And that's when I came into play. I've been a career commercial designer. I love seeing my product on the people. I've worked for companies like Coach and Kate Spade, predominantly for most of my career working in the accessories space. But my whole sort of fashion education and the first few years of my career were in ready to wear. And so you mentioned that this is a unique opportunity, and it really was. It was one of these moments when I accepted the role 6 years ago where it was like the unicorn, where it was combining my entire background into one role with somebody that I really admired. A founder like Reese also is a unicorn. She really cares about the product and the brand fans and everything in between. So it's been an incredible sort of once in a lifetime career opportunity for me.
How fun. I also would like to just back up for a brief moment to talk about Draper James itself for those who may not be as familiar that are listening, because it's a very distinct brand.
Yeah, well, it's really special. So I'm first and foremost a brand builder. When I'm working for a brand like Draper James that has such a distinct point of view, I really sort of take that in and make sure that the way in which we're thinking about the design work, the way that we're thinking about the product is really, really authentic to the mission. And Reese saw 10 years ago when she created Draper James, a real gap in the retail system, where she's first and foremost a businesswoman. She's not somebody, I love to play in fashion and style and sort of recreate the looks with one particular dress or item over and over again and kind of recombine it a million times over and have fun with it. She's somebody who wants straightforward, feminine polish. She wants to be able to reach into her closet, put on her outfit, and then walk out the door, first and foremost as a businesswoman rather than, a fashion stylist or anything like that. And she felt that she really couldn't find that in the retail market, and decided that, of course, she would create it for herself and her friends. And so it was really out of necessity and also seeing a gap. So for her, putting on a really beautiful polished Draper James blouse with a denim bottom in the morning, going through her day, the various meetings, and then out for drinks at night was something that she was looking for in the market. And that's really how we think about the brand when we're designing the brand. How is our customer wearing it? So she's starting in the morning. She's got a busy day ahead of her, whether she works or whether she stays at home or whether she's a student or anything in between. She's got a day that's full. And so she doesn't want to have to worry about fit. She doesn't have to worry about becoming uncomfortable. We all know that as the day goes on and you have your meals and you're moving and shaking, your garment starts to sort of adjust to your body as your body adjusts throughout the day. So we really want our garments and their fit to be able to do that, so that she's not thinking about, a little pinch here and there or what have you as she's, going about her busy day. So thinking about all these types of things. And, we're really proud of how often our brand fans shop with us. So they'll come back and buy the same silo. They'll figure out which silhouette works best for them. We watch our sales data, almost daily, I would say, to be able to really sort of address what she's loving in the brand and evolving that so that she can keep on finding her place in our brand.
I love that. I have so many questions about all of this, because particularly as it pertains to the design end, which you are heavily involved in. Personally, I'm 5'2.5".
Yeah.
And I know Reese Witherspoon is also petite. So I'm curious, this is something I've just always wondered, because sometimes I feel like brands design, but they don't always have the petite woman in mind. It's sort of, how do we adapt this to fit a petite woman?
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a founder who is petite, I have to imagine that has a bit more forward of a presence in the design process. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
It really does. So we pride ourselves on being an inclusive brand, and being inclusive, it really does sort of encapsulate many different things. So from the idea of petites, like you just brought up, all the way to the idea that we commercialize the same dress in the same fabric, all the way up to 3X. So it's really important to us that everybody is shopping with us. So when you come in with your friends or your family, and we all come in beautiful different shapes and sizes, that we're all able to shop together at this brand. That was always a mission of Reese's. And to address the petite topic specifically, what we do very intentionally is we will rarely have a full length sleeve. Of course, if it's an outerwear piece, we will go full length, but we'll make sure that we're engineering the opening of that sleeve to be able to roll back for the petite. So whether she wants to roll it into the interior or to the exterior, it's going to be equally polished and pretty, even though we know that she's sort of doing a modified wear for her stature. We also will keep overt embellishments away from the hem, so that if she does choose to alter, to shorten, she can, without losing any of the design details that are intentional in sort of that finished feminine product. So thinking about those types of things, sleeve length, even neck drops, where you have a neck drop, even a simple V-neck, that can go quite low on a 5'2" body type and be a lot higher on somebody who's, 5'9". And so thinking about that threshold when you start to grade the garment of what that needs to be able to accommodate, the smaller as well as the larger sizes. The other thing that we do is, Reese is a size 02. And my design counterpart is a petite. So she's around 5'1" and a size 6. And then I'm 5'7" and a size 8'10" in our line. And so just having those different body types from founder to design team really helps us make really strong decisions at the prototyping level. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that even something as simple as where a waist seam falls, we know that on, 6 and below, it must fall at a certain spot on the body to be at the natural waistline. Whereas we need to sort of almost create a different threshold for the bigger sizes because you've got the back filling that bodice, you've got the bust filling that bodice. And so if you don't pay attention to those types of placements like the waist seam, all of a sudden the same garment that looks really sharp on, a size 6, all of a sudden starts to look like it's more empire or stylized on a size 10, 12, 14. So always taking those considerations as a factor in our design work. And then our store sales associates are incredible. We have the best team in the business. Our head of stores is always providing feedback. We meet with her weekly. We talk about what the customers are saying, what's happening in the fitting rooms, what the customer wants or doesn't want from a particular garment or style or, from the brand itself. So we're really sort of staying close to the customer feedback as well through our store associates.
Well, that's wonderful. And that kind of ties back to what you were saying about really how Reese was listening to people's feedback and
Oh, really?
really how this all kind of really grew and came to fruition. So that's wonderful that it is still a priority. Again, going back to there is such a distinctive brand. And I would be curious to know if as you are creating these seasonal collections, if there are, I don't know if tenants is the right way to phrase this, but if there are specific influences or things that you are keeping in mind as you create new collections, and then what that process sort of looks like start to not start to finish, but as far as, I mean, you're pretty involved in I think most of it,
Yeah.
but as much as you feel comfortable speaking to how you go from idea to product,
Yeah. Yeah.
understanding there's like this overarching branch that you try to fit it into.
Yes, absolutely. So really inspiration, and I've listened to your podcast, and I know you interview a lot of creatives, and it really it's true. Inspiration comes from everywhere. And for
Mhm.
this particular brand, we'll often get inspiration from Reese. What she's shopping, of course, she's very much involved in still providing creative direction as she moves through the world and her travels. And even something as simple as taking a photograph of a friend, at dinner or, on a weekend away. So we will get overt inspiration from Reese and what she's feeling for in the moment. We're also always looking to our brand fans and understanding what they're gravitating toward, what styles they're loving. So we'll make sure that for the styles that they're really loving, we'll add a different sleeve. We'll put a little different detail. So it'll be the same overall fit and end use for her. So she's comfortable in that, knowing that she can come to us reliably to find a silhouette that works for her. But we'll add some new special little details. And so what that's called is you're sort of comping a style. So just say the dress that I'm wearing today, which is our little popcorn Marie, it's got a little button front and a little smocked waist. Well, we've run this before in a solid color. And so it was so successful. What we did was we sort of studied where it was successful, how it was successful. It didn't have a little smocked waistband the first time we ran it. It had a fixed waistband. Just by adding this cute little smock detail that's trending at the waist, it makes it just that little bit easier for her to wear day to day. She can still layer it. She can still wear a blazer, wear to work, wear to date, wear to weekend. We really design every single piece with the intention of just through simple styling effects that you can really change the way it looks and how you wear the garment. Of course, our main business is dresses. And so we're often looking to inspiration out there in the world. We do often have very feminine details expressed in the garments, but there's also a shift right now in how women are dressing. So a lot more solids, some more tailored looks. And so in order to address that, what we did is we really leaned into fall, into this season, we leaned into ponte dressing. So this wear to work style girl. So what does she want to wear? We have this great navy blazer. We have a pant to go with it, but then we also have done this really great collared, wear to work kind of dress. It's a sweet little A-line dress with a little short-waisted seam. So some styling elements that make it feel a little bit extra without feeling confusing to the customer, because most women don't want to walk into a store. And Reese has actually said this herself. I don't want too much choice. I don't want to walk into a store and try to have to figure out, okay, first of all, what do I want? Second of all, how do I wear it? That's the first thing that's going to make somebody walk right out the door. And so we want her to be able to see the line, see herself in the line, and more importantly, see the garment that she's gravitating toward the most in her own closet, in her own life. We build each and every garment, whether it's a top, whether it's a bottom, whether it's a jacket, whether it's a dress, to be able to fit into the context of her closet. She'll know that she can fit it in, even if it's a print, even if it has, a stylized sleeve like I'm wearing today, she can still fit it into her styling and how she's living her life. And so that's really important to us. And the idea too of our palettes and our mood every season and every year being part of the brand DNA rather than what's necessarily trending. So, if an acid green is trending, maybe we might do that as a leaf color, but we're not doing it as a solid color. We know that that's just too wild for our girl. It's not relatable for her, but we will sort of play in trends in a quiet way, but mostly stay in this space where she can build her Draper James wardrobe year over year over year. The palette colors complement each other year over year and season over season, as well as what's going on in the sort of retail landscape. So long answer, but
No, but
it's
it's so
complex.
interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And you really do hit the nail on the head when you're talking about wanting to just be able to either walk into a store, reach into your closet, and have ease, because decision fatigue is real. You hit on something that I wanted to get to at some point. So this is a good segue for this. Understanding the brand, a big chunk of it pulls from Reese's own Southern roots. Are there particular elements of Southern tradition, heritage that the brand tries to, encapsulate? I know you mentioned feminine details, which a lot of that often is found in traditional Southern dress. Are there fabrics? Are there accessories? I'll let you speak to that, but I would be curious to know which things you try to integrate or that are part of what the brand under her influence considers Southern inspired.
We are definitely rooted in the South. Our flagship store is on 12th Street in Nashville. It's a beautiful store, and it was really built to give the feeling that you're walking into Reese's home. So our cash wrap, for instance, is a beautiful countertop with stools. There are seating areas, there are bookshelves. There really is this warmth and hospitality to the brand that is very much rooted in the South. And so it really does come from that brand ethos as much as it does from the product design. From a product design level, it really is, we understand that as much ease in the decision making that we want to provide for our customer, so that when she walks into Draper James, she sees the brand. She knows that it's a reliable place to come for all of the occasions of her life to come and shop, whether it's, PTA meetings or brunch with the girls or a more special occasion than that. She knows that she can come to our site or our stores and really find her place in the line. So there's a reliability there as well. And we know that our customer and our brand really caters to this idea. She does put effort into her look. She does want to look polished. She does want to put her best foot forward. And that really is, I think, what we do so effortlessly in a way, is we give her an opportunity to be able to reliably put herself together quickly, because she wants to be polished. She wants to put herself out there in the world. She's not going out with a top knot and the t-shirt she slept in. We know
Right.
that's not our girl, but she also doesn't want to spend 3 hours getting ready. So
Yep.
we've sort of struck that balance where even if you are running late, you can throw on a lip, throw on a Draper James dress and run out the door and still get to your appointment. And so that's something that we consider as well. And I think that the waistline that I'm talking to you a lot about waistlines. I don't know why, maybe they're on my mind today. But, even just adjusting the waistline in a dress to have a little bit more of that elasticated ease is a perfect example of that sort of thing, where these considerations to have the end result of getting dressed be very polished, very considered, but the effort does not have to be at the same measure. And so that's something
Hmm.
that I think about a lot, which I think is very, sort of rooted in the South as well, that consideration and pride of person.
Well, and it's so helpful because I'll be the first to admit that I have a very traditional classic taste, but I also tend to, and I love fashion and playing around when I have the time.
Yes.
But when it comes to getting ready in the morning, I am not someone who can purchase a dress and my brain will immediately go to, okay, now I can wear this if I belt it. Or I can
Right.
wear that, like to have to worry about how to style it, like you mentioned in the morning or whenever you're putting it on, is something that I personally value. And especially being petite, you have to find what flatters your body. And sometimes
Definitely.
that's stressful. Again, that just reassurance of I can put this on, and anything from there is just enhancing it. It's not required to make it work. Shoes are my thing. So to be able, you pick out your shoes and then your accessories, that's where I think it makes something that could otherwise be stressful. You just appreciate it. Yeah.
Exactly. And our girl also she will mix and match, like I was mentioning. So whether it's within the context of our line each season or season over season, or even in the context of styling Draper James into her own closet. So we know she does mix and match, but she's also a head to toe girl. So that's similar to what
Yeah.
you were just explaining, where we really give her the style cues that we take out the guesswork. So if she loves a particular print, she might want to get the headband that sort of goes with that, or the necklace that has a gemstone that complements whatever the color of, the main color of the print is. And then we'll also have the pop color shoe, should she want to be a little bit more fashion in her styling choices. But then we'll also have the perfect, sort of teddy bear suede kind of color, a perfect caramel suede that can also be a perfect neutral. So I think a perfect example is this season in fall. We have the Bailey boot, which is our cognac suede that we did really well with in our beautiful bow test last season. And so we've brought in the same color of suede, but in a tall boot. We know she loves that suede. We did a bootie and a little slingback last fall. This fall, we're going to do that color in a taller boot. We know she can add that to her wardrobe. And there too, take the guesswork out of her styling. So she has a fashion boot, but in a color she trusts that she already knows can go with so much in her closet. So even something as simple as these color tricks,
Yeah.
that we can give her an updated style, but I hate to say it in a way that feels safe, and
It is.
reliable. And
Yeah, it is. But and that's not a bad word. People talk a lot about capsule wardrobes. And
yeah,
I've always struggled with that concept because I love color and pattern and I live for animal print. And I just have always wondered, well, how do you do a capsule wardrobe with that much going on?
yeah,
You could easily, almost unintentionally, create a capsule wardrobe with Draper James products because, like you're mentioning, there's so much thought that goes into it on the design side that as a consumer who's opening the closet, you don't even realize you could have a few select pieces that are you can mix and match them again, though, without much thought going into them on our end because it's already cohesive.
exactly. It's a sense of security and belonging in a brand
Mm-hmm.
as well. We have so much choice today. We were talking about that earlier, where it's an overload, a decision-making overload, like you said. And so the idea of creating this place of belonging in a brand, a storytelling, a heartbeat is so important. One thing that we do at the store level, especially at our flagship in Nashville, is we have so many people invited in to talk about what they're doing in their own lives and their own brands and their own startups, or even inviting musicians in or authors or anything like that. Anybody who wants to sort of have the synergy with the brand and come into our home basically and
Mm-hmm.
talk about the interesting things that they're doing in their life and how that relates. And that's such a place of belonging as well, because it's a really nice way to introduce people who may not have been shopping the brand prior by inviting them into the stores through a different type of event, a book signing or anything like that. So it's something something that our head of stores really concentrates on as well, making these connections in the community and even beyond. So that's another sort of interesting way of bringing the brand, the aesthetic, the power of dressing into more people's lives as well.
There's a connection here, and I'd love to talk about this a bit further. So what you just mentioned, plus earlier you were talking about, the Draper James girl loves a more polished look, generally cares about a head to toe look. And I would be curious because, of course, we talk about quote unquote grand millennial lifestyle, which is the brand that this all falls under. That really started for me as someone who just appreciates the very timeless classic design. But of course, I titled it lifestyle because I think that really spans the whole gamut. I see that as more than just an appreciation of design. I think there's an entire mindset that goes with that. And I would be curious to hear from your experience or your perspective, this resurgence, not even, I'm in my early 30s, but even, what is it, Gen Z below me? There's this really big fixation on heritage, nostalgia, even if they're not naming it that.
Yeah.
That's what it really boils down to. Some of the things you're describing kind of fall under that branch. Is that something that you're recognizing in the fashion world?
Yeah, it is. And especially for our brand, we're this very special place. And it's special because we see coming into our stores 3 generations of women shopping together. So you'll have mother shopping with her mother as well as mother shopping with her daughter. And so that really speaks to what you were just saying. And it's really because we design the line in a way that addresses. So for instance, if we have a particular print or a particular color or fabrication, we're going to make sure that we offer that in a top, in a midi dress or maxi dress, as well as an above the knee cut dress as well, which is great for petites, but also great for, women of a certain age who love to show their legs or younger women. And so we're really thinking about all of the different women who may want to express themselves in the line. And I think that, you're talking about this return to a more polished way of dressing. And I think that comes down to authenticity in a way where we want to authentically present ourselves to the world. So there's so much else about each and every one of us that is so interesting beyond our fashion. And so it's almost this return to feminine, polished, traditional dressing in a sense with a little hit of trend. So it's not so, we're relevant, I like to say at Draper rather than hyper trendy. And that's because you immediately notice how put together whomever it is that's wearing us, this woman is in Draper James. And what's beyond that? There's nothing that you can possibly question about how she's put herself together because it's so authentically her, so authentically polished. And now we presented ourselves with our best foot forward. Now, what do we have to say? What do we have to offer? There's so much more beyond the figure type and how we're dressed that we have to offer to the world. And I think that really does come forward in a brand like Draper James, in a brand like your own, where there is this return to authenticity and tradition in a way, and a straightforwardness that still feels relevant in my eyes. And I think that's very appealing and very comforting.
I agree.
You don't feel like you're on the cutting edge of something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I'm so glad to be able to talk about that because, of course, there's a lot of conversation with interior designers around this topic, and I don't hear it as often in the world of fashion, though I see it happening all the time. That was my own curiosity, but I'm so glad we were able to touch on that because I think there's an appreciation for it too.
Totally.
Yeah.
And there's a way to sort of create this sense of belonging in a brand. For instance, this fall, we have this great lady moto jacket in black.
Oh.
She's so cool looking, but you can still wear her. You don't have to be like, oh, am I that cool girl? Can I do that? You can do it. You can throw it over a dress. Our CEO just the other day had a great dress on and she threw that jacket over top. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, it's just in the styling that it's totally kind of flipped the concept of what it is to wear a black leather jacket into this place of, New York City cool. She's walking around the streets and we've sort of plucked her out of, a Southern rooted brand, but she's totally relevant walking down the street with her moto jacket and her Draper James dress as well. So we think about those completers in a way
Yeah.
where, of course, we want to make sure that everything is wearable, it's findable, it's like absolutely something that you can have on high rotation in your closet, whether it's, you've chosen a new dress or a new top, like I said. But then these seasonal completers, like a leather jacket, or for instance, we also have this beautiful sort of cheeky suede jacket as well that I've been wearing a lot, which has a fringe on the back. And I was
I
in
love that
Nashville a
one.
year ago
I love
and
that.
Reese happened to be, with us. We stopped at her office in Nashville. She's like, oh, you know what would be really great? A suede jacket with fringe. And so I'm like, done. Let's do that for next fall. And so you can have the more whimsical, playful version of this fall topper, but then you can also have this polished, edgy version as well. And it all goes down to the styling into these feminine, polished looks that we've built an entire business on.
I love that. And I especially love that you just touched on, particularly when it comes to fashion. I think a lot of us gravitate toward things, but are often fearful of,
Yes.
and it goes back to your, authenticity as well. I think we are often a bit fearful to embrace our authenticity in fashion and present ourselves exactly how we want. I love nothing more than a combination of uber feminine and edgy. So
Yes.
that a jacket like that, both of those really
Yeah.
that have that like grit to them. They're just such great timeless pieces because those, I mean, you will never not wear those.
Exactly, exactly. And none of us are just one thing, right? We
Yep.
can be feminine, we can be edgy, we can be fashion forward, we can be safe, we can be all of those things together. And I like to think that we play a little bit in those things, all of those things at Draper James, even something as simple as you're wanting just this really great part of our website called The Essentials, where, we have our chambray shirting, we have our crisp textured shirting, we have some of these more straightforward closet builders, but you can go ahead and layer on a bunch of necklaces, layer on a statement earring, layer on a great pop shoe, like you were saying, as a shoe girl. So
Mhm.
even something as traditional as a button front shirt can be played up or played down depending on your mood that day. I'm very much a mood driven
Oh
person.
yeah.
And so sometimes I want to be feminine and demure, and other times I want that suede jacket on with the fringe and, go out there and present myself to the world in that way. That's a little bit more playful, more cheeky.
I love that. One of the things I was going to ask you about is that as a longtime follower of the brand, I'm aware of some of your collaborations that you've had over the years. And so I would be curious how that works and what that intersection is like for you as someone who works through the design process.
It's such a fun part of the job. And really, we try to concentrate on finding very synergistic female founded businesses and brands to collaborate with. That's something that's very important to our brand ethos. And so, something, for instance, when we launched the sport collection, we did a collaboration with Bala Bangles, which was started by a husband and wife team. The year prior, we had done a ski collaboration with Farah, which was a female founded business, answering similarly to how Reese was answering a question in the retail landscape. Farah, this ski brand, also developing since the 70s feminine ski wear that's still performance driven. So we're thinking about those things. We have our 10th anniversary coming up next year, and we want to do something really special. And we've sought out a collaboration with a female founded fine jewelry company. She's very much inspired by her own grandmother in the same way that Reese was inspired by her grandparents to start Draper James. So in all of these collaborations, the product result is definitely a labor of love, but also seeking out the partner that we want to tell the
Mm.
story of our brands coming together. Seeking out that brand and that person and that story is also a labor of love. We want it all to make sense. And really sort of this mutual storytelling aspect that can unfold, so that, of course, everything is about, marketing and how to get the stories out into the world. And so we want, whatever brand we're partnering with, that they have a story to tell on their channels in the same way that we would have a story to tell on our channels, and making sure that one, we're introducing our customer to a new brand or a new aspect or a new product that they may not have considered prior, but also that, a new storytelling aspect and a new way to think about Draper James. One of the really fun ones that we did was a Linus Bike collaboration where it was
I
so
saw that.
fun.
That was so
Oh my
fun.
gosh. Yeah, to work on that one was so fun because we were learning so much about what goes into all of the parts and finishing, and even just coming down to the painting of the tire rim or something like that. That one was really fun because they were very keen to marry the two brands. And we have this iconic wall in Nashville, which is our awning stripe wall. And people come, tourists come from all over the world, take the pictures in front of our awning stripe wall. It's very much part of our DNA. And so on the little tire rims, we had the little stripe coming through and being a little bit playful in merging the two brands. How do we tell a visual story just as much as we would be telling a marketing story together?
All of your collections, when they come out, obviously I'm I'm always scrolling on there, but the collaborations are just so unique because you can still look at the collaboration and tell it's a Draper James product. And so that's always been something I've been curious about, particularly the bikes, because that's really interesting because, well, you've done other collaborations too that have been non-fashion or clothing. So to take something that is kind of your element and transform it into something entirely different is, like you just mentioned, a completely different process. Interesting and fun in its own way.
Yeah, and you get to learn so much from another brand builder, another product maker. And it's amazing because even something again, next year we have lots of fun things coming out. We're launching outdoor entertaining. So we have a beautiful tabletop. I know,
So
I can't
excited.
wait. We have to get it into your backyard.
Oh my
So
gosh.
these beautiful outdoor melamine tablescapes and table linens and outdoor pillows. And we're partnering with this amazing outdoor furniture company and doing a co-branded exposition of this great capsule. And it's been really fun because not only are we learning about, myself and my accessories designer, we're learning so much about the technical aspects of what it is to bring outdoor furniture to life and all of the elements, that are involved in that, both, the natural elements of just having this product needing to exist in the outside world, and what that takes to be able to make sure that it has a longevity, but then also just how do we make it special and feel like our brand with some custom elements as well. So it's always so fun, sort of this meeting of the minds. I think anybody who's in this line of work, we're all sort of creative product nerds at heart, so the process involved in bringing all of these things to life is a labor of love.
Now I'm giddy. I'll be keeping my eye out on that one, I suppose.
When it comes out, I'll text you.
I know. Let me know. Oh my gosh.
Coming out.
I'll be the first in line. The one thing that, we were talking about, of course, collaborations are a blend. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was, we touched on this very briefly, but the concept of kind of blending, I won't say trend because I think the word that you're using is relevancy, which makes sense, but that timelessness, understanding you want to create collections that are relevant, but you're working to build the wardrobe of a very timeless classic woman. How are you projecting what someone who does appreciate a more classic, timeless aesthetic might gravitate toward as far as quote unquote trends, contemporary fashion? What is that mentality?
Yeah, I think it really sort of works back to the idea of where you want to play in trend as a brand. So for instance, I would say that our shoe line that we offer through draperjames.com and also in Nashville, we really sink into what's going on in the world. We're looking at what's happening in Europe. We're looking at what women are wearing. We're playing in these trends. For instance, we spent about 2.5 years developing the right loafer. We started to notice that more, women are more into flats right now, talking about Gen Z, millennial, Gen X, like we're really sort of still, of course, wearing heels, block heels, kitten heels, even a little bit higher, but really into fashion flats right now. So what is that? Of course, it can be a sneaker. We do this amazing collaboration with Tree Torn, which is one of Reese's favorite sort of sneaker brands. So we have that running. But what about for the women who don't want to wear her dress with a sneaker? We spent about 2.5 years, like I said, finding the right aesthetic for the loafer. We've launched it. It's so darling. I like to call it the love loafer. She's just a simple black loafer with the perfect toe, the perfect heel height, and then a little whimsy as well. Our brand can have a little bit of whimsy, be a little bit playful. You can be traditional and trendy and playful and whimsical. You can be all of those
And
things.
edgy.
Exactly. And a little bit edgy with the leather,
Yeah.
black leather lady jacket on top, but in the right balance. And so something like that in that category, we can be definitely more trend driven and pay attention to what's going on in the world. So the loafer is one example. The other place where we play in trend quite heavily is in jewelry. So right now there's a real return. When we started our jewelry line 4 or 5 years ago now, we really leaned into jewelry, knowing that our girl really liked the outfit completer and she was wanting to have more jewelry in store. We leaned into the aesthetic of almost second guessing whether it might be fine jewelry or not. So a lot of
Mm.
gold core jewelry, beautiful gold hoops, beautiful gold layering necklaces, etc. We started to play in elasticated layering bracelets as part of this more traditional concept of jewelry. And they took off like crazy. And we were like, oh, wait, maybe she wants a little bit more trend driven jewelry as well. And so we've slowly but surely been watching what our brand fans are looking for, how she wants to be dressing. And we're going into full color, full statement. There's a real momentum going back into this statement jewelry realm. And so
Yeah.
paying attention to trend in that category. And then we have the ultra traditional places where we like to play, which is in home, which is very much where your expertise rests. We launched bedding yesterday. And if you had a chance to check it out, you'll see
Oh, I
that
did.
we, oh,
Of course,
good,
of
good.
course.
I hope you loved it.
It's
We
gorgeous.
went to this very traditional place. So again, thinking about the idea of what Reese herself might have in her home, right? Because these are investment pieces. You're not buying, you're not changing the look of your bed in your bedroom in your home, you know, every few months. You're
Seasonally,
really
yeah, yeah.
exactly. You're really investing in an aesthetic. And so in a category like bedding, we're going to go to a more traditional place in that particular category in terms of how we think about the design work. So it's all a very thoughtful sort of balance of perspectives and really being nimble in how we address how we design. For instance, at the very beginning, when I joined the brand, there was this real hard lean into these easy t-shirts. We had like a step and repeat heart v-neck t-shirt, a little step and repeat star t-shirt, and they were sort of sweet and trending and our customer loved them. And then our customer kind of moved away from that. And so we sort of saw this idea into a high preppy t-shirt kind of phase. So we went into the mariner stripe. And so you're always sort of watching this flow of what your customer is gravitating toward, even in these, what we call these opening price point landscapes. Shoes and jewelry, I would say, would be places where we play more heavily in trend. And then the toppers and the outfit completers, like I mentioned, jackets can be quite trendy as well as a brand
Yeah.
because they're emotional. You're wearing it over your outfit. You're not wearing it all day necessarily. So you can take more risks, more chances with your personal aesthetic and stretch your own limits.
And what I love too is, you even gave the Mariner stripe as an example. I mean, it doesn't get more classic. So
Yeah.
even though there might be a general resurgence in those patterns as a trend, that will never, I mean, you could keep that in your closet forever and it
Yes.
will always work. So
Yes.
even that is brilliant. And then outerwear, don't even get me started on your capes. The capes are so good. They're
And
so
timeless.
beautiful.
And
So
so
beautiful.
timeless, so chic.
Oh my gosh.
As part of our 10th anniversaries, we're doing this really amazing 10 silhouette capsule of fan favorite dresses from the
Oh, how
past
cool.
years. And so I just have chills even
That
talking
is
about it.
so fun.
Isn't that fun? And so what we're
Wow.
doing is we worked really closely with Katie, our head of stores, who I mentioned a lot on this call, and my head of design, Helen and I, we really are leaning into this idea of bringing back her favorite. So in the same color with the same embellishment, but then also leaning into silhouettes that we've done that were her sort of day dress favorites and making it more occasion driven, so that a favorite dress that she bought, over the years from us that maybe she was wearing to work or on weekends or whatever, now, she can have it for church or for weddings or just to, a special date night or whatever. And so we're really exciting to launch that. And it's just going to be this amazing, almost bouquet of best-selling
Oh, that
dresses,
is
a
so
love
fun.
letter to our brand fans. So
I
that's
love that.
really
And
exciting.
even though they're over the last decade, it'll be still relevant, classic.
Relevant.
I mean, it's perfect. I love that so much.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, not many brands can say that. So that's really fun and exciting.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's a lot of brands dip back into their archive from 10 years ago and think nobody could wear that today. But
No, yeah.
well, it's just not the way that we built Draper James. And so that's actually a very proud moment for us that we can actually dip into our archive and we could put it in the store window tomorrow, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it feels really rewarding.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, obviously, lots of exciting things are on the horizon. So I will make sure to share all the links so people can follow along. And I just thank you so very much for taking the time to talk to me today because this has been really insightful. I'm so glad to have heard a little bit of the behind the scenes. I appreciate you for taking the time.
Amazing. Well, thank you for having me.